Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey here once again, and I'm here today to review episode 1 of the new DC Universe show, Doom Patrol, which is obviously, we had that I guess you could call it like almost like the backdoor pilot in episode 4 of Titan season 1, but now they have their own show, the Doom Patrol, Doom Manor. It's here to, show us what it's got, and I must say, I'm very impressed with what they showed us. But of course, spoiler alert, we're going to be jumping into not everything that happens in this episode, but the big parts of the story elements, you know what I mean? So if you've not watched the pilot, I'd go watch it and then come back to this video later on. But yeah, if you want my recommendation whether to go watch it or not, go watch it right now because it's pretty damn good. But in regards to the general story, basically it's flashbacks for the opening, I'd say roughly 40 minutes or so. So we get a lot of flashbacks, which makes sense. They've got to set up, how these people got to where they are in Doom Manor and part of the Doom Patrol. So, it seems like it's the natural progression of the story. But we actually do start off the episode with the villain for the season, who is going to be Mr. Nobody. But we start in the late 40s with Eric Morden, or Mr. Morden, and he's actually in Paraguay, and he's actually narrating the entire episode. Now, I don't know if they're going to continue that throughout the entire season, or if that was just for this episode, the pilot episode. Because, as we've seen on a lot of shows, the pilot episode is can be much different than what we get in the future episodes. So I don't know if they'll change up the technique in regards to that, or maybe they thought him narrating the episode was the best way to start because, well, you're already watching, so no spoiler alert, but, Mr. Nobody starts off the episode and ends off the episode in regards to being there. So maybe they thought that was the best way to go about it, him narrating it. I don't know, but we see Eric Morden become Mr. Nobody, paying, as he quotes, a king's ransom to do so in the process. But I did like how they basically just got through everything quickly. They didn't linger on a lot of things. Like, that's what we needed to see, and then we can find out more stuff in future episodes, which I think was the correct way to go about it. Which then sees us jump into the late 80s. We are time jumping here. We don't have a time machine. We're just jumping through time. So we go to the late 80s with Cliff Steele. The R rating for this series was definitely achieved just through the scenes with Cliff. I mean, I think I saw too much of Brendan Fraser's ass in this episode. I think it was only one shot. One shot of Brendan Fraser's ass is enough for me, if not too much. But yeah, we see boobs and ass and everything like that. So they definitely achieved the R rating through just the scenes with Cliff. Don't know if we'll get more of that throughout the season, but just for this episode, they definitely achieved it. But we see him go from this cocky cheating, and I wouldn't say unlikable. I guess to some people he'd come across as unlikable. I think for others he just as I said before, cocky and just overconfident, just up himself a bit. But that type of Cliff Steele, he goes from whatever you want to describe him as there to when everything is lost, Robot Man. So only his brain survives. There's been this massive accident, which we'll talk about later. But through Robot Man, the steps that we have for him to becoming a fully functional Robot Man, we actually meet Niles Calder, aka the Chief, throughout this whole process. And we also seem to see flashbacks past the flashbacks, if that makes sense, to the happiest memories of his family. But then when he properly comes to and he's a functioning Robot Man, everything is almost like a fractured bad memory, and everything just sort of has to come to as he moves along. Another time jump, we jump to the early 60s with Larry Trainer, who was a test pilot for the US Air Force, and he's part of an early space program as well. He's also a gay man, but obviously closeted. He sees himself as a monster because of that, which I'm sure I think not every episode, but each of these characters is going to have an episode specific to them and how they dealt with everything, whether before they were who they are now, and then after the different accidents and stuff like that. So I think there's probably going to be an episode specifically on Larry and the gay side of his life, if that's the correct way to put it. They do tease us a bit in this episode with it, but don't really go too deep into it. But in regards to that space program, as expected, things go not that great and things go wrong. I don't think they specifically say it in the episode. They just say that something joined him on the spacecraft, but he's hit by a radioactive wave like he is in the comics, which essentially becomes a part of him. Essentially, Larry Trainer himself really is a negative man. That being that comes out of him is Negative Man, but I guess we'll still call him Negative Man when we're referring to the superhero aspects of these characters, I guess. And off to the mid-50s in Africa with Rita Farr, and she is filming a new film, as you'd expect. And she has issues with this one-armed camera operator. I think she refers to him as an eyesore, which then leads to some karma, I guess, and she falls in a river and is exposed to, once again, they don't specify it in the actual episode, but like the comics, she's exposed to this strange gas, which essentially causes her to like lose control over the expansion of her body in front of everyone, and essentially everyone just thinks she just disappeared and went away and possibly died. So she becomes Elasti-Woman. Obviously, it's Elastigirl in the comics. They've sort of wanted to make her Elasti-Woman on the show, so there we go. But definitely with the Rita Farr character, they are going for the more horrific take, or the horror side of the character, which I think is the good way to go, just for like a story for that character. So I think that's the right way to go. And then we finally meet Crazy Jane in present day. 64 personalities. Can't wait to meet all of them. We'll go over the ones that we met in this episode in a second. But apparently she's been there since the 70s. Now, interesting. It'll be interesting to see her backstory, which we know we'll get. But she's been basically in and out of Doom Manor, though. So, yeah, she's a comer and go, if you want to call her. But that's basically the general story for the episode. Obviously, we had that big fight at the end. But in regards to my favorite moments in the episode, the team in general, like I think the chemistry between the team is good. Like, you know, different personalities and stuff like that. I think it works really well, and I can't wait to see more of them, especially when Cyborg comes into the show next episode as well. Matt Bomer and Brendan Fraser's voice acting, especially Brendan Fraser, is great because they're big names. Like, a lot of people know who Brendan Fraser is, and if you've seen like White Collar, I think the show's called it, or even like American Horror Story and stuff like that, you know who Matt Bomer is. So their voice acting, you can feel the emotion, as I said, especially through Brendan Fraser, because this episode is really Robot Man's episode, so he has a lot to do, and I think for the voice acting they had, and the moments that I had in this episode and what they had to present just through their voice was great, because you got to remember, Brendan, like, Robot Man is just a robot. He can't really like raise his eyebrows, show eye emotion or anything like that. And, you know, Larry Trainer, or, you know, the character Matt Bomer's playing, is wrapped in bandages. You know what I mean? So it's all voice, and I think they do an amazing job, both of them. One of my other favorite moments was Robot Man gaining the will from the memories of his daughter to get up those steps. I thought that was a really great moment, a very emotional moment. And basically just finding out Robot Man's, like, I guess, quote unquote real accident. Like, it wasn't on the racetrack, but just a general car crash. And I know that we are still on the fence on whether that memory is true or not, because obviously Crazy Jane was talking about how his daughter survived. Obviously we'll have to find out about that in the next couple of episodes. But, you know, just seeing all that was just obviously once again like a heart-wrenching moment. But one moment with Robot Man that just made me smile was just when he had the slot cars. Such a simple thing, but just when he had the slot cars, like he was just in that room by himself for all those years, just not doing anything. And then Larry brings across the slot cars and just gives him something to do. And just even when like Rita and Larry in the room, you know, helping him play with the toys and stuff like that, I thought that was a nice moment. Crazy Jane's personalities were a highlight of the episode as well. I think we saw Hammerhead, Beautiful Hangman's Daughter, Sun Daddy, and I think there were two others I wasn't able to pinpoint off their short appearances from the top of my head. But Sun Daddy, I'm interested to see what they do with Sun Daddy. Hopefully we get to see more of them, more of that side of her in future episodes. But yeah, she's definitely the character that could be very interesting in certain episodes, just because, you know, just swapping and changing to these different personalities, especially when the more extreme ones come out, which I can't wait to see, and hopefully we do get. The venture into town, you might think, oh, you forgot to talk about that in the main story. No, I just thought I'd talk about it because it's one of my favorite moments. Just going from a good time, hey, this is, this wasn't a bad idea to come into town, to, okay, not so good time. Rita completely losing it in the diner. Robot Man and Crazy Jane, you think, oh god, they're going to be the ones that stand out the most, just walking through public. But it is really like Rita and I guess Larry that go into a diner and a bar that really stand out the most, and I guess bring the most attention to themselves. Mr. Nobody's design, so you know what Eric Morton becomes, I thought was really cool, and I don't know how they do it. I'm guessing they have Alan. I don't know. I'd love to see behind the scenes how they make his design work with all that CGI and stuff. But I think he looks really cool, and we see him towards the end and just causing like that black hole sort of thing. And the episode obviously ends there. But yeah, I want to see more of him. I think his design looks really cool, and I want to see what his like overall plan is. Obviously, he's coming for the chief and stuff like that, but I want to see where that goes. And one thing that was actually one of my favorite moments, but isn't in the episode, if that makes sense, was no Cyborg. I actually love the fact that Cyborg was not forced into this episode, because he is such an outlier in regards to like just not being there. So I like the fact that we're going to be introduced to him, in next episode. I think that's the right way and the right time to bring him into the episode. So I was happy that they just go, okay, crap, we'll chuck him in there for the last 5 minutes so we can say that Cyborg's in the episode. I like the fact that they did keep him out, and we can save him for, next week and properly focus on him. Because I don't know if they'll necessarily be Cyborg's episode next week, or it'll just be like an all-round episode. Unlike this episode, which was the pilot, but you have to say it is Robot Man's episode because we go mostly over his stuff. Even though I'm sure in the future, in another episode, we'll have like another 1 or 2 specific Robot Man episodes. In regards to worst moments, there's only one, and I've mentioned it before. Brendan Fraser's ass. I did not need to see Brendan Fraser's ass. I think, yeah, as I said, one time, I think I'm scarred for life. So, yeah, no more Brendan Fraser ass, and I think I'm sweet. But overall, this is honestly one of the best premieres for a TV show I've ever seen. Not saying it's number one. Don't get tricked and say, oh, this is better than this one. I'm not saying that. But for me personally, it's one of the best I've ever seen in regards to a premiere to a TV show. I think it did exactly what it needed to do. It didn't force in stuff it had to. That didn't need to, sorry. Just showed us what we needed to know. Didn't spend too much time on one specific character unless it was relevant. I think Robot Man, you had to spend a bit more time on just because of the journey of his character. But yeah, I couldn't think of an actual negative. I know the Brendan Fraser ass was a worst moment or a negative, but it's not a real negative, you know what I mean? I was just in there for a bit of a joke. I can't actually see anything they did that wrong with this episode. I know you could nitpick maybe Elastigirl or Rita Farr's CGI when she sort of loses it, but it is a TV show. It's not a movie. You can't spend that much on it. So for what it was, I thought it looked good. And yeah, I can't recommend this highly enough, but I know why you'd be watching. I'll just spoil the episode. But I'm so excited to watch the next episode of this show. And I think DC Universe really nailed it with Doom Patrol, which I think if you're going to say Titans or Doom Patrol, I think a lot of people said, oh yeah, I'm looking forward to Titans more. But after watching both pilots, you have to say, wow, Doom Patrol just completely nailed it. But thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show your support. Let me know in the comments section down below your various opinions on Doom Patrol episode 1. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you give it out of 10? Let me know in the comments section down below. And what your favorite part was as well. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. I'll catch you later, guys. Goodbye.